today? What are we doing today? Okay, so I have so many videos I want to shoot for you guys, and I will be putting them up into the queue. I am gonna be starting prep again this next week. So excited, cannot wait. Today, I think we will do a update video on life, how things are going, and also talk about me going off of Lexapro. So this video, you guys have been curious, like, hey, what was your Lexapro experience? So this is gonna be all about my Lexapro experience. Hey guys, and welcome back. Okay, so what is Lexapro? So Lexapro is a SSRI, which is a antidepressant, anti-anxiety. So it can be prescribed for many reasons. I actually was prescribed a SSRI a long time ago, back in the day when I was in high school, because I had something that the doctors thought was called abdominal migraines. And they figured it would be good for me to be on an SSRI for that. I'm not really sure why. I think it's because I was having so many gut health issues. You guys know my story with celiac, grains, all of that. So I am grain and dairy free now and doing incredibly well. But let's just talk about that for a second. So back in the day when I was a young kid, I was always sick. I was always having cramps. Stomach cramps. I would have to rush to the bathroom. I would be sick a lot of times. Like, I'd go out with my friends and I'd have to know like where the nearest bathroom was in case that I got sick. I never felt well. Like, my entire time as a child, I never felt good. I always felt tired, fatigued, very weak. I was short, you know, I had all these things that were going on with my body. I couldn't build muscle very well. And all this ties back to undiagnosed celiac. So fast forward, you know, years and years later, I ended up getting so sick that I was vomiting after eating every single time. I would eat cereal with milk. I'd rush to the bathroom about an hour later, just uncontrollably throwing up, projectile vomiting. It was extremely embarrassing, extremely uncomfortable, and extremely scary. I didn't know what was going on with my body. I couldn't eat anything, it seemed like. And so eventually I found that carrots were safe, and I ate carrots for like an entire year. This is not healthy. I'm not trying to advocate for any of this. I'm telling my story and saying what I went through as a child, and kind of like how we discovered what was going on. Carrots were 100% fine. I felt good on them. So I was eating like a little bit of vegetables. I'd eat like cucumbers here and there. I'd have carrots. I would do, you know, certain things were fine. Apples. I even was doing like fruit chews, like the not fruit by the foot, but what's the organic one that's like, I don't know, you can get at Whole Foods. They're like $1 a piece or whatever, and I'd eat those as like a snack. I was extremely thin. I was very thin because I was barely eating, and I just, you know, my body was recovering from all the damage from years and years and years. So eventually I started adding foods back in, and I was feeling better. So I was adding in, you know, fruits, vegetables, but I still did not add back in grains or dairy at that point. And I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that those made me feel really sick. I remember going to a party and having, oh my gosh, what was it? It was like something that was breaded, and I immediately was sick. Like, ran to the bathroom, throwing up, diarrhea, the whole thing at a party. Like, hashtag embarrassing. This was before people talked about stuff like this on the internet. And so I just felt very alone in this. I was like, oh my God, I'm the only person going through this. Oh my God, this is so horrible. And it started to isolate me from friends and family. So I just didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything, because each time I did, you know, I would always get sick. I remember going to a movie with a friend and literally running to the bathroom like every 5 minutes. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm never okay. If I eat, I'm not okay. So it created a really tough situation that I was in. Fast forward to when I was in my early 20s. Maybe I was actually 19 at this time. I think I was 19. I moved to an apartment that was next to a McDonald's, Burger King, Jimmy John's. There was a couple other fast food joints there too. And I ended up, you know, going to McDonald's one morning to get a breakfast Sammy on my day off, which was really rare. I was working like 3 jobs. And I went to McDonald's, I got the breakfast sandwich, I ate it, and I had 0 issues. And I'm like, oh my God, I am healed, hallelujah. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I started eating pizza, going out with friends. I was drinking beer. I was, you know, doing all those things. And eventually I got sick again. So the gut can heal, and it does take almost a decade for damage to occur with celiac. It can take up to 2 decades, 3 decades. It just depends on your body, your genetics, and you know, your lifestyle. So back to Lexapro. I'll talk about why I went on it, how I went on it, all the details in this video. So in 2019, I got really sick, or 2018, I got really sick again, and bedridden sick, like anxiety, depression. I was having muscle trembles. I almost say that they're seizures, but they weren't. I don't know if I can even say that without like a diagnosis, so I'm not gonna say it, but it was to the point where I would fall on the ground from having these intense, like my legs would just give out and start shaking uncontrollably to the point where I couldn't, like it was scary. My arms would go like this, like I couldn't hold things, I would drop things all the time, and I was dizzy 24/7. I had vertigo 24/7. The walls felt like they were like always moving. Like I just felt like I was in this non-stop spinning world, and I started to lose my quality of life, and I started to lose hope that I would ever get better. Like I didn't know of anyone else who was going through this. I was on like a lonely island. I was completely by myself in this, so I thought. So those moments, like that time in my life, I turned to the internet to research what was going on with me. I refused to live like this. I knew that I was healthy at one point in life. I knew I had gotten healthy again, and I knew I had past gut health issues. So I started digging deeper. I'm not the type of person who takes something as fact or just runs to the doctor to get medications. In fact, I don't like taking anything. I don't like taking aspirin. I don't like taking anything if I don't need to. I try to avoid taking anything at all costs just because I don't want to be dependent on something, and I want to know why a certain particular thing is happening. I don't want to just medicate for things, like, and that's just my personal beliefs. That's just my personal way that I live my life. You know, this channel, like, I never want to tell people what to do, and I also think you should think for yourself. I also think that you should have your own opinions, and I also think you should do what makes your life better, and that's really what I stand for. So for my quality of life, I knew I wanted to get better, and I didn't want to do it with any crutches. I didn't want to do it with anything to mask symptoms, because I wanted to fix the base problem. I knew that if I just went on medication, I'd have other issues down the road, and I didn't want to go down that road. And so I went on the internet, which I feel like all stories start with like that, like WebMD and shit like that. Like, you should go get blood work done. And this is what I would tell people going back on that time, is I wish I went and got tons more labs done by more holistic based doctors, but also more functional medicine doctors, but also people who can actually look at the blood work and be like, you're low on testosterone, you're low on these hormones. Because if you go to a normal doctor, a lot of times they'll tell you nothing's wrong, and that's where people get really frustrated, is they go to a normal doctor and they're like, you're totally fine, nothing's wrong with you, and you're sitting there like, I can barely function, and your doctor's like, it's all in your head. And that is the #1 thing that crushes people. It crushed me when I went to multiple doctors and they were like, nothing's wrong with you. And then I went and had my blood work done by a functional doctor who was like, holy shit, you have a lot of stuff that's wrong with you, and let's talk about that. And you know, you're low on all the B vitamins, like severely low, to the point where it's too low on the B vitamins, which was causing the issues with muscle, you know, the shaking. It was causing issues with neurological function, especially B6, zinc, and B12 can cause extreme anxiety. And that's what I was going through, was extreme B vitamin deficiency, extreme zinc deficiency, which can throw off your hormones. And once my hormones were thrown off, I was just such a mess. So hormones were thrown off. I had mineral deficiencies, I had vitamin deficiencies. I was just barely getting by every single day. And that's why I think it's important I share this story, because I know there's so many people out there dealing with autoimmune, dealing with anxiety, depression. They're dealing with things that they can't quite pinpoint. And that's why I'm sharing my story, because I hope this helps somebody who's going through that. So in her looking at my blood work, there were so many things that were off. And, you know, it was just, we looked at like the autoimmune, we checked the ANAs, and there was over like 10 different autoimmune conditions: scleroderma, Sjogren's, lupus, oh, I forget the rest of them, but I had severe liver damage. I had cirrhosis of the liver, which I don't even drink, which is crazy to me. I was like, what would cause this? And she couldn't really tell me. Like, she was kind of like, we can do more testing. And I just started doing my own research online and trying to find information online, which isn't always the best thing to do, but I knew that there was answers to this. And that's when I found Dr. Peter Osborne sometime later. So I think it was like 6 months later, or maybe it was 8 months later, I found him and binged on his videos, because he made so much sense to me why I was going through what I went through and why I healed on a carrot diet. And it made so much sense. It really clicked. He was the first doctor I found who I was like, this makes sense for what I had been dealing with. And so I bought his book, No Grain, No Pain. If you join his Facebook community, you can actually get the book for free. So you can do that. It's a free Audible. You can go ahead and download it. But anyways, I followed the grain-free, dairy-free lifestyle, which is actually pretty easy to do when you start to eat more vegetables, you're eating more lean meats, which I'll do a video on how I cook my fish. I'm really excited for that. I use cedarwood planks, and I'm gonna be doing it on the grill. So you guys will be around for that. I will show you how to make gluten-free or grain-free, dairy-free cookies. That will be fun too. And I'll do these videos for you guys just to help you guys out if you're going through this. So basically I found him, I started on the grain-free, dairy-free lifestyle and started feeling so much better. I had more energy, my skin was clearer, I was less puffy. I am only 3 days into being grain and dairy-free yet again. And I already feel so much better, you guys. It's night and day difference. I don't know why I went back to eating grains. I think it's because, you know, grains are in fucking everything. You go to the grocery store and everything's grain. You go out to eat and there's grains in everything. It's just so ingrained in our American culture to be eating grains that it's hard to avoid them. It really is. It's hard to avoid dairy and grain together as, you know, that combo duo, but it is doable and it is worth it if you're dealing with autoimmune conditions and your blood work's a mess and your doctor can't tell you what the hell is going on. Do your own research, look at the clinical studies, go to Dr. Osborne's page and just take a look at it. Read the book Wheat Belly. I forget who wrote that, but that's another really good one too. But basically I started feeling better. But I had this PTSD from being sick for almost 3 years. I don't know how to quite describe it, but it was like my panic attacks for those 3 years were so bad and so traumatic that I stopped going and doing things. Like I couldn't go to the grocery store. The lights were too bright, which is actually one of the B vitamins. Being deficient can cause light to be too bright. I think it's B6. So that's why people, you know, I have to have sunglasses on when I'm outside, or they'll say like, I couldn't go to the grocery store, the lights were too bright, but it always felt like the walls were caving in on me in the grocery store. And I would get so panicked that sometimes I would just have to leave. Like there was one time where I went to the grocery store and I'm like deep breathing in the parking lot just to go into the fucking grocery store and get like a bag of asparagus. And I'm like, okay, you can do it, girl, you can do it. And I was trying to like hype myself up like a cheerleader. And, you know, I look back on that time and I'm just like, I wish I knew now what I knew back then, because I could have saved myself from that habit of thinking this is how it's going to be forever. And that's what caused the PTSD. Whenever you go through something repetitively for an ongoing time, like the longer the time is, the more trauma is embedded in you. So I was dealing with PTSD from this time. And so I was scared it was going to happen again. I was scared I was going to get sick again. You know, I was always living in that fear, which is not the way to live your life. You should be living your life in an expansive way. You should feel good. You should feel like, you know, you just shouldn't feel in panic or fear all the time. That's not a normal thing. It may be common, but it is not normal, I promise you. And so when I was going through this, I felt, you know, it's time I reach out to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It was severely impacting my life. I didn't want to go to Disney with friends. I didn't want to go out to dinner with people. I was just kind of dealing with this in isolation again. And I was like, this is not how I want to live my life. And so my husband was on board. He was like, you know, just see what they have to offer. And the first thing they offered me, like they offer most people, is antidepressants. So I was offered a antihistamine, which makes sense because I had high homocysteine levels, which can cause anxiety. It can trigger anxiety, and that's from having low B vitamins yet again. And they offered me that, and then they also offered me SSRIs. And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the prescription. They sent it to my house. It was great, but I didn't go on them. So it was like they had, the timeline of this is like September of 2020. They prescribed it. I had gotten it, you know, mid-September, and then I didn't take them. I was like scared to go on them. I'm like, I don't know what the heck's gonna happen. I'm horrified. I've never done anything like this in my entire life. And so they were just sitting there like haunting me, like, we're here. And so I was just like, I don't know. So I had an appointment with my therapist, and she's like, have you gone on them yet? I said no. And she was like, you know, just start them, see how you feel. Start on 5 milligrams. So I started on 5 milligrams of Lexapro in October. I'm trying to think of the timeline. It must have been beginning of October or mid-October, because I got married at the end of October, and I remember I was 2 weeks out from the wedding, and I didn't want to go on them and have issues for the wedding. So anyways, let me rewind. I was 115 pounds when I started on Lexapro, and that was a high weight for me. So I was 115 when I got on Lexapro. That was already a high weight. And within about 2 weeks, I began to have severe weight gain. So I went up from 115 to 120, and then once the wedding was over, I kept gaining weight. So it was like after the wedding, I was still on prep. I was doing 75 hard, so I shouldn't have been gaining weight, but my body was just like, I was always starving on Lexapro. Like I could not get enough food. It was so crazy. I would eat 4,000 calories in a day, and I would still be so hungry, like to the point where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to sleepwalk to the fridge and eat everything. It was really, really traumatic going through that when I was on prep. And on top of that, I, you know, began having binge eating issues where I'd crave sugar so intensely. It was so weird. And even when I restricted, you know, when I stopped with the eating so much food and I went down to eating my normal food, it was really hard for me to lose the weight. So mid-October to November, December, January, February, March, April, I was on them for 6 months. April 3rd was my competition. I did not get lean enough for my competition, and I'm not blaming the Lexapro, but I will say I was doing 120 to 250 minutes of cardio every single day on top of an hour and a half of workouts in the gym, and I was eating barely anything, like barely anything, and I was not losing hardly any weight. So I don't think the average person is going to be doing 250 minutes of cardio every single day, and I don't think they're going to be eating 3 ounces of vegetables, 3 ounces of meat, and maybe 2 ounces of rice for a meal. For, you know, the entire day I was eating, you know, vegetables, meat, and then I'd have one meal that had 2 ounces of rice, and that's it. No sauce, no nothing. So the fact that I was like barely losing weight while doing this, and my body fat was still really high, was just insane to me. Because right now I can see fluctuation if I decide to. Right now I'm at about 2,300 calories a day, and I'm, you know, I'm gaining muscle, like we're working on gaining muscle. But I'm also not gaining like I was back then, and my stomach's not swollen. Like I actually can see abs at this weight. I'm 123 right now, coming down from like 130 on Lexapro. So 123 right now, and that's high for me typically. And so I'm kind of like going through this transition phase where I know if I decided to go down to 1,800 calories a day or 1,700 calories a day, I would start to see dramatic weight loss. I'm not even doing that much cardio right now. I'm barely doing cardio. I'm just lifting till failure. So the fact that I'm just lifting till I'm completely fatigued is building muscle. It's helping the metabolism, yes, but it's also, I'm not doing the things I was doing, you know, just a month and a half ago. So anyways, 6 months on Lexapro, I will tell you this. I went from 5 milligrams up to 10 milligrams, and I never went above 10 milligrams. The entire time I was on Lexapro, I had migraines. I felt like shit most of the time. I felt like I could never wake up fully. I would have like at a loss for words a lot of the time. If you look back on videos, you may notice that. I just never felt really, really good. And I also felt like it actually took me back in progress. And I was feeling just on edge a lot of the time. And to be on an antidepressant, to take the anxiety away and to take the edginess away, and then to feel on edge on it was just so weird. So anyways, I was on that for 6 months. I went off in April. I tapered off. That is so important. If you go off of an SSRI, please, please, please do not just quit cold turkey. You need to talk to your doctor. You need to work with your psychiatrist or whoever's prescribing you the SSRI and taper off, because I've had friends who just cold turkeyed it and you will get brain zaps, you will feel like crap, and it can be also really damaging too. So I tapered off of it. I went off, I think I was doing 10 milligrams and then I went to doing 5 milligrams every single day. So I did my 5 milligrams at 8 p.m. every single day, and then I started doing 5 milligrams every other day, and then 5 milligrams every third day, and then I went off. So I did the super safe taper method, and again, that's my taper method that my doctor prescribed. So please do not do what I'm sharing right now. Please do what your doctor prescribes. Your body is bio-individual. You should never, ever, ever listen to someone on the internet and do what they're doing. You should always talk to your doctor. You should always go off of your own lab work. You should always do everything that is bio-individual for you. So getting that disclaimer out of the way, that's how I ended up going off of the Lexapro. And then from there, it was about, I think April 10th was my last day on Lexapro. And then the next week I felt really tired, but I had gotten COVID. So I got COVID on April 11th. And so I think that's when it started, that my symptoms had started on April 11th or 10th. So I thought it was going off Lexapro. So this is why it was so confusing for me to even think like, is this COVID? Is it going off Lexapro? What is it? So anyways, I was so tired, but again, that could have been linked to the COVID. It was hard to tell. So I went off of it and I had gotten COVID. So I don't know, you know, it's hard to say what the symptoms were related to, but I was really, really fatigued. And I think part of that has to do with going off of Lexapro. When you go on Lexapro, a lot of people will get really tired. And then when you go off of it, you can get tired too. But I will say I got my quality of life back 100%. So a week after going off Lexapro, the first week was kind of hard. I felt, you know, really awful, but that's also because of COVID. But even with COVID, the second week off of Lexapro, I felt so much better. Oh my gosh, so much better. And then the third week off of Lexapro, even better than that. So it was like this progressively feeling more myself, feeling more energetic. I was feeling better. I felt like I wanted to organize the place, make everything beautiful. I felt like I had zero anxiety and my migraines were gone, and I just felt so much better than being on it. But then there's that caveat too, where I was still eating things that had cornstarch, and so every time I eat that, I would get a migraine, I would get a headache, and so it's a 360 thing. It's never just one thing, and it's rarely ever just one thing with anything. So you hear people who say things like they're so black and white on everything, but it's not like that. Like, life's never like that. You know, there's a lot of gray area, and there's also a lot of you know, experimentation with things too. So for me, we're gonna see how this journey grain and dairy free goes. I do have a highlight on my Instagram. It's called Grain and Dairy Free Food or something. I don't know. Let me pull it up for you guys. But I'm just kind of documenting my my experience with it and sharing that for you guys. So yeah, G&D free food. It's the first one. I need to make my highlights pretty again, but it is what it is. But I hope this helps one of you with, you know, your journey on Lexapro or going off Lexapro, or maybe, you know, starting Lexapro, whatever it may be. I watched so many videos before I went on it. I was so, like, I wanted to hear other people's stories because I wanted to make an informed decision, and that's why I'm helping you guys by making this video, because I hope it helps somebody, you know, like I hope that this video reaches someone who maybe is confused and doesn't know what to do, or maybe you are on Lexapro and you're going off and you're scared to go off. I know I was a little nervous to go off of it because I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but we're alive, we're doing good, and we're feeling good. And so, you know, you got to do what's best for you and be your own best health advocate. And yeah, so I hope this video helped you guys. I will see you in upcoming videos. I'm so excited. And yeah, so let me know down in the comments, have you had an experience with this? You know, are you curious to hear more about other stuff going on in life? Like, are you curious to see more grain and dairy-free recipe videos? Like, what is it that you guys want to see more of? And also, don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell notification so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next video.